Welcome to Jack for June, week 1, session 4. This is the final of our 4 sessions in the Jack for June program. Obviously, with all these exercises and the programming, these are going to progress week to week till the week 8, where we're looking at retesting some of our 1-rep maxes. Week 4 is going to focus specifically on the cleans as the primary movement, some accessory squat exercises, plus some additional bench press. So it's quite a hybrid session. You'll feel like you're going from one component to the next in a short amount of time. Obviously, with our warm-up, we're looking at priming some of these movements and getting you in an optimal spot for performance, but the main movement is the clean, so keep that in mind. Let's start off with A, which is going to be more of a priming component for the clean, which is our muscle clean. 3 sets of 5 at 30 to 40% of your 1-rep max clean, or at an RPE 8, leaving 2 reps left in the tank. Now, with this one, there's no re-dipping. So as we're coming up from the floor, we're looking at extending through the hips. We're keeping the arms driving, and then the elbows swiftly come through. We're not looking at dipping back either in this particular movement. Think of it like a push press of the clean. So I like to think the push press, we dip and then continually drive on the way up. It works the same way, but we're just pulling instead of pushing. Moving into our B section, which is our final of the 4 1-rep max tests, power clean. Look at building to a 1-rep max. Now keep in mind at this point of the training week, you might be a little bit more fatigued than you probably normally feel. You've done 3 1RMs and a bunch of other sessions, plus additional CrossFit sessions for some of us. So this might be a little bit more challenging than what you expect, but whatever we hit here is what we're going to use to work off for the remaining cycle. Just make sure we must lock out hips, knees, and ankles. So when we receive the clean, we don't want to just drop it and be like, yeah, sweet, I got it. We receive the clean, we stand up, full extension, showing control, then reset. Make sure the increases are 2.5 kilo increments like all of our 1-rep max movements. Let's move on to component C, which is our secondary squat session, looking at a bit more accessory squat work, specifically looking at the front squat. Now, I've tested and proven that this component works with pretty much any movement you put it through. It's challenging, it's fun, and it gets better with each week. So trust me, you'll enjoy this too. We've got tempo, pause, front squats, bit of a mouthful. But 1x7 at 50%, 1x5 at 60%, 1x3 at 70%, and then finally 1 set of 1 at 80%, or all lifts at an RPE 8, looking at increasing in weight while decreasing reps. The tempo stipulated for this one is a 3-second controlled lower, 2-second pause, then a drive. Obviously, the set of 7 and set of 5 are going to be fairly uncomfortable, but at lighter weight, so you'll be able to sustain it. Set of 3 and set of 1 will be heavy, challenging, but overall not as fatiguing as the first 2 sets. So the deeper you get into this component, the easier I find it to be. Moving on to component number D, which is going to be our touch and go bench press. The only pushing movement in this whole session. It is just a complementary set of bench press to help get more volume in the movement over the 4 sessions. We've got 5 sets of 15 reps at 55%. A fairly low weight, but just keep in mind with the touch and go bench, we're not just slamming into our chest and driving. We're controlling the lower and then driving up with good tension on that barbell. TNG just means touch and go if you're not too sure. E1 and E2 are going to be a superset. So superset, obviously we do both movements back to back and then we rest any remaining time. Our E1 is going to be a sandbag hold or carry, your choice if you get too bored just standing there with a sandbag. 3 sets of 45 seconds holding a heavy weight. My big suggestion of this is bear hug, so making sure it's nice and high in that rack position, and from a box. So make sure you're not always cleaning off the floor if you don't need to. If this allows you to go from 45 kilos to 68, because you just pick it off the box and you can hold that for 45 seconds, that's going to be more ideal. Obviously, Michael believes in training the movement you're working on. So if you're working on cleans, you should train a bit more. I agree in some contexts. So cleaning from the floor is a RX Plus option. You can do it, but it's not recommended. E2 is going to be back extensions. This is done on the GHD machine, looking at 2 sets of as many reps as possible, either at body weight or a banded assisted variation. With this one, keep in mind there's a lot of things that we're going to cover on the back extension because it is a challenging movement that is very big on body awareness and how we move the spine. We're looking at extending each vertebrae as we come up. Imagine we're like a caterpillar, we're rolling up, we're coming to full extension, we're extending the spine, and then we're rolling all the way in and then flexing the spine. Looking at control, don't rush this movement, making sure we're actively pointing the toes and driving them into the back of the pads or the backboard of the GHD. So add a bit more hamstring and glute activation in the movement and more from a stability standpoint. Looking at setting up with this one with the hips hanging over the edge. That way we're able to actively flex and extend our spine. And if we physically can't do this, even with some banded assistance, which I'll have a video out that later on in the challenge, if we can't do this without using a band, we can always replace it with the reverse hyper machine upstairs here at Unbound or in your own facility. Awesome. That's going to cover all of our sessions, but this specifically is week 1, session 4 of the Jack for June challenge. Leave any comments in the comment section down below about any of the sessions, things you might struggle with, just questions you generally have, queries or qualms. We'll get to them, we'll answer them. But I hope you guys enjoy the challenge of Jack for June, and I'm going to see you on the 3rd of June for week 1.